So the point is that, history of nations, certainly the history of Canada, is punctuated by such times when our actions can be decisive. And we're in one now, to be clear. We're in one now. Technological change is accelerating rapidly. The world has become more dangerous and divided. And that decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship between Canada and the United States is over. And as a consequence of particularly that last point, many of our former strengths, based on our close ties to America, have become our vulnerabilities. And this is happening fast. This is not a transition, it's a rupture. And it means that our economic strategy needs to change dramatically and rapidly. And that was the context for Tuesday's budget, the first of our government. Now, in the budget, we estimate that U.S. tariffs and the uncertainty that they're creating will cost Canadians about 1.8% of our GDP. Translating that, it's about $50 billion lost from our economy, the equivalent of about $1,300 for every Canadian. And if we don't act now, those losses will only grow. So part of our point is that nostalgia is not a strategy. The U.S. has changed, that's their right. But we must respond. That is our imperative. What the budget does is it builds Canada strong by focusing on what we can control. And that's building at home to protect and empower Canadians. It's boosting our productivity to drive lasting prosperity. It's transforming how government works for you. And it's diversifying our trade partners to create more opportunity and greater independence. There's lots of institutional, people know this, there's lots of institutional capital in Canada and very strong banks, so I can get financed if I'm going to move forward. So I think those elements are there.
The U.S. is doing that too, though. So what is the extra thing that Canada?
Well, we have rule of law. That's one of the big things. So that's true.
The moment Mark Carney appeared on live television, few expected the conversation to turn into one of the most talked about exchanges between a Canadian statesman and a former president of the United States. Carney, known for his calm demeanor, analytical precision, and decades of leadership in the global financial world, is not the type of figure associated with dramatic confrontations. Yet on this day, the world witnessed a rare collision of personalities, the composed economic strategist versus the politically charged force of Donald Trump. The tensions surrounding Canada-US relations had already been building. Trade debates, political statements, and competing public messages created a climate where any miscommunication could escalate quickly. Trump, known for his bold public remarks, had made several comments about Canada's economic policies, global strategy, and financial leadership. For weeks, media outlets speculated about whether any prominent Canadian figure would issue a direct, public response. No one expected that the response would come spontaneously, in real time, on live television. As cameras rolled, Carney sat with the steady posture of a man accustomed to navigating crises. His experience guiding both the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England through financial turbulence had earned him global respect. But this time, he wasn't being asked about inflation or monetary policy. The questions aimed squarely at a brewing dispute between Canada and the United States, specifically reactions to public statements Trump had recently made about Canada's economic direction. The conversation began politely, but it didn't stay that way. The interviewer pressed Carney about Trump's comments, seeking clarity on Canada's perspective. Carney, choosing precision over provocation, began explaining the economic realities behind Canada's current strategies. He spoke about market fundamentals, long-term policy goals, and the importance of evidence-based decision-making. But then came the moment. The interviewer quoted one of Trump's recent statements directly verbatim, and without softening the language. A claim that had already sparked debate on both sides of the border. Carney paused for a moment, looked directly into the camera, and delivered a response so clear, so forceful in its confidence, that social media exploded within minutes. Carney didn't attack Trump as a person, he didn't insult him, and he didn't escalate the tension. Instead, he did something far more impactful. He corrected the record step by step, using facts, data, and policy history, It wasn't aggression, it was precision. And the contrast between Carney's calm expertise and Trump's fiery public communication style became the focal point of the broadcast. Across North America, millions reacted instantly. Clips spread across Twitter, TikTok, and cable news networks. Analysts described the exchange as a defining moment in modern Canada-US political communication. Others called it the first time a Canadian figure had directly countered a major public claim from Trump in such a clear, structured way. The effect was immediate. Trump supporters defended his original remarks. Critics argued that Carney's response exposed deeper misunderstandings in public political narratives. Canadians saw the moment as a powerful representation of their country's voice on the international stage, measured, evidence-driven, and confident. Behind the scenes, political strategists on both sides understood the significance. Carney was not an ordinary public figure. His influence spread far beyond Canadian borders. His reputation in financial circles meant that his words carried weight with economists, policymakers, and global investors. So when he challenged the accuracy of the statements being discussed, the impact wasn't just political, it was economic. Markets responded subtly but noticeably. Analysts began referencing Carney's remarks in global economic commentary. Articles appeared discussing whether this confrontation reflected deeper tensions between Canada and the US, or whether it was simply a necessary clarification of complex financial issues. Meanwhile, commentators revisited Trump's statements to evaluate how they aligned with historical data. The live exchange also prompted renewed debate about Canada's evolving global role. Carney has long been seen as a potential future leader in Canadian politics, and this moment put him at the center of national attention. To many Canadians, his articulate response symbolized the kind of leadership they felt represented their country on the world stage: strong, thoughtful, and rooted in expertise rather than rhetoric. In the United States, reactions varied widely. Some political commentators acknowledged that Carney had raised legitimate points about fiscal realities and economic structures. Others dismissed the exchange as political sparring. But regardless of perspective, the moment undeniably fueled conversation across the continent. As the broadcast continued, the interviewer pressed further, asking Carney whether he believed political commentary was affecting public understanding of economic issues. Carney responded with a message about the importance of accuracy, transparency, and evidence-based claims, values he said were essential for democracies to function. He emphasized that disagreements were healthy, but public discourse must remain grounded in facts. It was a subtle message, but unmistakably pointed. By the time the interview ended, the story had already taken on a life of its own. International networks picked up the clip. Economists debated the technical points raised. Commentators dissected Trump's statements alongside Carney's responses. Politicians weighed in. Even celebrities posted reactions, using the moment as commentary on broader political themes. In Canada, the moment was hailed as a rare instance of a Canadian figure stepping directly into the spotlight of American political conversation. In the US, the moment raised questions about how foreign leaders and experts interpret the former president's public messaging. Globally, the moment was seen as yet another signal of shifting political dynamics and evolving alliances. Yet what truly made the exchange historic was the balance Carney struck between firmness and professionalism. He didn't match Trump's intensity. He didn't personalize the issue. Instead, he held his ground with evidence, clarity, and composure, qualities that instantly elevated the significance of the moment. The event also sparked a deeper conversation about how public messaging affects international relationships. Economists began re-examining the narratives that shaped political decision-making. Diplomatic experts discussed how public disagreements influence cross-border cooperation. And both Canadians and Americans reflected on the value of transparent, fact-based public communication. In the weeks that followed, the exchange continued to dominate political talk shows and editorial pages. Analysts debated whether the moment would shape future Canada-US discussions. Many speculated that the encounter symbolized a broader shift, a more assertive Canada, willing to challenge narratives when its national interests or public reputation are at stake. But no matter how people interpreted the moment, everyone agreed on one thing: the world had witnessed an unusually powerful confrontation, quiet, but unmistakably impactful. A clash not of personalities, but of styles. A collision between the precision of a seasoned global economist and the unmistakable force of one of America's most polarizing political figures. And just like that, a single live interview became a defining political moment, one that reshaped the conversation across North America, highlighting the growing importance of truth, transparency, and intellectual clarity in an era dominated by heated rhetoric. The shockwave continues to echo. Thanks for watching Alert 360 News, where real stories meet real impact. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, smash that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join the fastest growing news community on YouTube.